Hello and welcome back to the second of our variety of EDM training videos that we at Virginia Department of Environmental Quality are creating and hoping to host and offer for you to assist with becoming familiarized with this new web mapping tool that we're hosting. My name is Rex Robichaux. I'm the GIS administrator at Virginia DEQ. And I've been heavily involved in the creation and development of the EDM. So I'm, happy to share my experience as well as my knowledge and familiarity with this web mapping tool with you. Um, in this video, we're going to take a look at our just kind of the basic interface or navigation and basic usage of the tool. We're not going to really dive into any details of these as we have kind of specific short and targeted videos for each and every tool that's available here. So if we cover at a high level a tool today and you think that that sounds interesting or relevant to you, feel free to check out the Environmental Data Mapper Help and Resources page available on our Environmental Data Hub under Facts and Help. And you'll be able to find the rest of these more selective videos. So with that said, I'll go ahead and dive in. So every time that the web mapping tool loads, this is what you're going to see. This is our kind of default disclaimer that goes over our data accuracy, our standards, and liability statements. You can just go ahead and accept that and close that out. By clicking accept, you would do accept to those stated terms and conditions that are listed in that disclaimer. And once that closes, you have full interactive capability within the EDM. So we'll kind of take a top-down approach and start from the very top of the tool and kind of work our way down here. So across the top, a basic header bar. We have a few links that might be relevant or helpful to users. The first being a data download portal link. This will take you out to our Environmental Data Hub and Open Data Portal. And again, that page that I just showed you for other like help videos and resources, you can click here and that will take you out to that page. As we work our way across, we find that there's actually two main places that tools are kind of logically organized here in the EDM. We have a series of 6 of our widgets or tools, as we use the terms interchangeably, and up here in the upper right. You notice by default, every time that the EDM loads, you get the layer list to open up by default. That's expected behavior, and we wanted it that way so that you have instant view of the data sets available to be interacted with here in the tool. If we look at some of these other tools available, we have a legend. Again, the layer list, which is open by default. Draw and markup, so basic draw and markup capabilities. A tool that we're calling What's Nearby, but it's a basic way to run kind of like basic geospatial analysis in the form of buffers. So you can buffer from a point, line, polygon, or a selected feature within the tool. A watershed summary tool, which will allow you to quickly and easily return watershed summary information for any given location within Virginia. This is nice. You can either search for an address, you can drop a point, you can import something like a shapefile, or enter in coordinates if that's what you have to find out related watershed information for that given location. We have the swipe tool here, which we'll again dive into later. For that to work properly, you need to turn on the correct layers within the layer list, which is why it looks a little bit funky here in this preview. So I'll reopen the layer list here, and then we'll look at the second set of tools, and these are an additional, I would call them 5 or 6 tools, depending upon how you want to classify them in the upper left. First and foremost, we want to look at the search tool or search bar. This is really important because this is one of the primary means in which you can search for individual records, or you can search for geospatial locations, either through a address search by entering in like the address and city, or you can also search for coordinates. So if you happen to know like the latitude, longitude coordinates, you can enter them here as well, and that will perform the lookup for you and take you to that location. Again, we'll have a dedicated video just to the usage of all these tools, so I won't actually go through the demo here. Below it, you'll see the first tool we're calling Add Data. This is a handy way for you to add in external data. If you have an ArcGIS Online login, either with Virginia DEQ or with your own organization or independent ArcGIS Online login, you can add in several ArcGIS Online tools here. or sorry, not tools, but actual layers. Alternatively, you can pull in external ArcGIS server REST services. So if you know of other external REST services that we're not currently making available here, you can paste that in and we'll actually load in that REST service layer here into the EDM. Or if you have local files that you like to upload and view spatially, or at least for some of these examples, view spatially, you can do that as well. If you're going to upload a shapefile, I will say make sure it's a compressed or zipped shapefile that contains all of those required shapefile type file extension files within it. Alternatively, you can also upload like Google KML, GPX style, GeoJSON, and non-spatial CSVs, for tabular looking or preview within the tool. Next is the select and export features, where we can actually leverage this for doing a variety of different spatial selections on point line or polygon type layers. Measuring, of course, we want to have the basic capability of measuring areas or distances. This tool can do both here within the EDM. A print utility or a print tool so that you can actually print out web maps that you've taken and maybe added some layers, maybe done some markups, things like that. Now you can actually print it to a PDF or other formats and a variety of layouts. And lastly, as far as our tools go up here, the base map gallery, which we offer a variety of Esri hosted ArcGIS Online base maps for you to iterate through and select as you so choose. We can see here that the swipe also will work with these base map layers. So with that said, I'll jump on over to the last I would call independent tool that we make available here. And this is an extremely powerful tool that we'll have an entire video dedicated to. But if you click this arrow button down here at the bottom, you'll see we just popped up what we call the attribute table. The attribute table contains all the layers that are available here within the EDM. You can see them up here as tabs that you can kind of sort through, or you can view all of them underneath this drop down here in the upper right. Again, we'll dive into the nitty-gritties of the attribute table in another video, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware that it's here. Another alternative way that you can open up the attribute table is actually through the layer list here. So if we open up the top layer group here, we find a couple layers. Here's our biosolids areas. If I wanted to see that in the attribute table, I can just hit open attribute table. It's going to open that attribute table and actually takes me already to the biosolids area tab. So kind of a nice way to get directly what you're looking for out of the attribute table quickly. That said, everything within everything aside from the layer list tool here is you can expand it, you can contract it. We wanted to build it out in such a way to give users maximum real estate within the EDM to where you have all the room that you need to work with should you need it. So everything's expandable, contractible. If you close it, you can just open things right back up. And then, of course, some basic navigation tools are up here on the upper left that we're probably all very familiar with. Zoom in, zoom out. Mouse buttons also work. And then home button, which will take you to kind of the default extent that it initially loads at. If you are on a mobile device, this should pick up your location as long as you enable location services within your mobile device, so you should be able to see your location live within this web mapping tool. I'm on a laptop, so unfortunately this wouldn't really work well for this demo. And then down on the bottom left, you'll see a scale bar that again is dynamic and will change with our zoom extent change. And then on the bottom left, our coordinate tool, to where you can kind of quickly, depending upon where the cursor's at, see your coordinate locations. You can also click that little crosshair down in the very bottom, and then you can click any location and it will actually give you like a static lookup of that. So we see that pin that I dropped there is at negative 77.594 and then 37.590 north as far as latitude, longitude coordinates go. And all you need to do to remove that is re-click that little crosshair and it will go away. So that being said, that's the basic navigation and usage of the tool. One thing that's probably worth mentioning here is if you were to reload the tool, or say something happens, you close out, you reopen, When you first load, you'll see this app state down here. If you want to reload exactly where you just were last time you were within the web mapping tool, as long as you haven't done something like cleared your local browser cache, that's going to turn on the same layers that you had on previously and take you to your previous extent. So that's why it's taking me back here and it's turned on our biosolids area layer. So a nice little nifty tool in case something happens, you get disconnected, say it were to freeze up on you or something like that. You can always close out, reopen, click that little app state dialog in the bottom right once it reloads, and it will take you kind of back to your last known spot with your layer preferences and things like that. Last but not least, probably worth mentioning in this basic kind of interface and navigation is essentially every single layer that we make available here within the EDM supports a pop-up. So if I were to click a feature, I can learn more about that feature, and I just did that here on this biosolids area. It gives us some basic information about it. And this layer also happens to have some related table information. Not all of our layers do, actually only a few do, but this is one of them that does. So if I wanted to see related info, I could click here. But again, we'll kind of dive into that into a pop-up specific type video later. But I wanted to make it very apparent that almost all of our layers do support pop-ups. So to be aware of that. And a lot of times if you click on an area that's dense with features like this, you'll actually see up here 1 of 9. There's actually 9 features in close proximity to where I clicked. So if that's not the one I was looking for, I can kind of click up here and this little button, it will iterate through them until I find the feature that I'm looking for. Again, everything here is you can copy and paste out. So it's nice and kind of feature rich in the aspect that you can extract this information. And also, if you wanted more real estate, this data set doesn't have a ton of attributes, but if it did and it didn't all fit here, I could hit expand and kind of get the full view of all the attributes available for that layer. So I'll go ahead and close out. I think that pretty well covers the general tool navigation features. And again, we'll kind of dive into all the tools that we just covered at a very high level in more detail in subsequent videos. The next video on tap is actually the layers and layer lists in particular, available here within our layer list widget or tool. That's going to be a really good one. It's going to cover a lot of the data that we make available as well as ways to interact with that data. So thanks for tuning in today, and I'll see you in the next video.